Hello everyone. Hi. Hello. Cool. Yep, so maybe he knew I was just starting to film. Hey everyone, Hayley here again. I've come today to post a bit of an update. I have some exciting news, and I also wanted to talk today about something I mentioned in my previous video. I wanted to talk about coming out of the weight loss surgery closet, as it were, how I went about that, who I told, and the struggle related to that. So that will be our little chat today, but just a quick update. I don't have a lot of news, but the news that I have got is awesome. I have got a date for surgery. So last week on Wednesday, it's Saturday today, so on Wednesday afternoon after work, I went to the weight loss surgery clinic. I met with the nurse there. That's the first step at this particular clinic, is meeting with a nurse. So I met with that nurse. Her name's Shelley. She was really nice, really lovely, flattered me to no end. She was really sweet. We just kind of had a chat. I'm pretty well informed, and I told her that about my surgery preference and everything that goes into that. So we just had a chat and talked about availability and cost, as well as, yeah, she just gave me some insight into how they run the clinic. So my date is on the 25th of January, which is just under 2 months away now. Today is the 26th of November, so just under 2 months. I'm very, very excited. They did offer me the 6th of January with a different surgeon, and there was pluses and minuses to that. Of course, I'd like to be done as soon as possible, but I felt like the 6th of January might be a little bit too early in the year for taking time off with work. I'll be taking sick leave, of course, but I just kind of wanted to be settled in. Also, I wanted to go with the surgeon that my GP had recommended. She worked with him while she was training, when she was studying, so she said he was great, and as much as I'm sure his off-sider, who was available in January, is also great, I wanted to stay with that particular surgeon. So I have my date. I'm being operated on through Darabin Weight Loss Clinic, with Dr. Ali. So I'll put that information down in the box below, just in case you're looking for someone. I can't really recommend him entirely yet. I've not even met him. I do have an appointment to meet him in about 3 weeks, I think. I have to have some bloods done first, see a dietitian. They have a dietitian in-house. They also have a psychologist, but I think I'm not going to see the psychologist just because it's really hard for me to make appointments, and she did give me that option not to see them. So that was interesting, and I have seen a psychologist reasonably recently, and I don't really feel like, I certainly wasn't pushing for seeing the psychologist anyway. And then, yeah, I'm getting operated on the 25th of January, so I'm really excited. I'm a little nervous, but mostly excited. It still feels like it's a little way away, but yeah, it's all worked out really well. I did say in a previous video that there was a problem with my work and I wouldn't be able to be operated on until February or March. That changed, that circumstance changed. My training has basically been cut back 4 weeks, so I'll be driving 4 weeks sooner. And yeah, that just means that I can take sick leave without huge delay 4 weeks sooner. So the next step now is I have to have those bloods done. She's particularly interested in my vitamin D and my vitamin B12, as well as just obviously general health for the surgery, to make sure I'm fit for the surgery. I've had a not too bad week. As I said, with some change with work, it was a bit kind of topsy-turvy there for a moment, but doing really well. I'm really enjoying the topic that we're studying at the moment, so that's great, feeling really good. So the big thing that I wanted to talk about today in this video is how I told people that I'm planning on having weight loss surgery, because I think for a lot of people it's a hard process. I know from just reading on forums and stuff, I know that people do kind of struggle with that, and I certainly did struggle with that. So I wanted to talk about how my experience was when it comes to owning up to the fact that I'm going to have weight loss surgery. I am probably not the best person to be talking about this in giving advice sense, because my circumstances are quite straightforward, and I know that for some people it's not so quite straightforward. I know the struggle can be quite universal with weight loss surgery patients, so I just wanted to talk about that and give my insights. I've pretty much told everyone who I will tell now, 2 months out from surgery, but I guess it's kind of a continual process, and I know that going forward there will be more people that I need to come out to, as it were. Just to train here, we'll just wait 1 second until it goes, because it might make a bit of noise. Again, if you haven't seen my other videos, I just film in the car because there's better lighting. I live in a very dark apartment, so I find it hard to get good quality footage in there. Anyway, my particular circumstances are quite simple. I'm single. I have very, very good friends, a few very close friends. I have a team of workmates that I work in, and I have my family, obviously. And they're basically all the people that I needed to tell about weight loss surgery. The first person that I told, other than my mum, was my good friend Brad, and that was hard. Brad is a very, very good friend of mine. He's very sweet. I love him just a bit. We're best friends. But it was hard to tell him, and I think because he was, one, the first person I'd told, and two, he's not overweight, and I felt like he wouldn't understand, because he was the first person. I just said to him, this is something that I'm thinking that I should do, and this is the kind of surgery that I'm going to have. He didn't know anything about the sleeve, if I remember correctly, and yeah, that was that. He is such a beautiful guy. He's just so understanding, and I could have said, I'm going to chop both my legs off, and he would have been like, oh yeah, oh cool, okay, oh sure, I'll visit you in hospital. So I found that hard, but after I had told him, I found it much easier to tell all of my other friends, and all of my other friends don't struggle with their weight either, so not in a big way like I do. But once I told Brad, I did find that easier to tell my other friends. There was one friend that I told who I feared a negative reaction from. Most of my friends, I knew that they would just be supportive of whatever I wanted to do. But there was one friend that I thought I might find some resistance with, just because I already knew her opinion on weight loss surgery. And she's a good friend of mine, but I think when you already know what someone thinks about weight loss surgery, if it's negative, that does make it hard. So that's another challenge that I identified, and that turned out fine. That turned out great. The next step was to tell my dad. My dad and I are close. We have a really good relationship. But I only talk to him about once a week. He lives in New South Wales, and I don't really get to see him that much. I saw him twice this last 12 months. He presented a unique challenge because I couldn't tell him face to face. I kind of had to tell him over the phone. And I think that was probably the first time I felt a lot of shame, and I felt like it was hard to tell him because I was ashamed of myself. And so shame isn't necessarily something that everyone is going to feel, but it is certainly something that I felt. And that was another challenge for me. And then when it comes to acquaintances around me, I actually found it really easy. And this might not be everyone's experience, but with people whose opinion didn't matter to me, I could just tell them like that. I'd just come out with it in conversation. And so my workmates, for example, who are the kind of people who are going to see a big change in me and I felt like I should tell because they would notice it, they would see it. I found them really easy to tell, and no one had any negativity. There was some mild curiosity from some of them, but I mean, nothing dramatic. And that was the kind of coming out that I could do in conversation. So I think also because people could see my mum's success. Most of these people don't know my mum well. In fact, all of them don't know my mum very well, but they see, like, through Facebook or just from me chatting with them, my mum's success, and I think that helps soften the blow. So I know that anyone watching who's maybe struggling with how to tell people might not have a mum who's had a lot of success, but I think phrasing the success stories first or in the conversation was helpful for me. Look, it's so amazing, look how well my mum's done. maybe I should do that. I'm also overweight. That kind of sentiment, I suppose, that helped. With my dad, it was just a process. I never should have worried so much because when I did tell him, he was great. He just asked a couple of questions and that was that. So I think the moral there is that often it's going to go just fine. And we can kind of have a habit of making things seem a lot bigger in our minds than they really will be in reality. So I guess that brings me on to the topic of shame, because that's something I had to get over when I told Dad, and on smaller scales when I told everyone else. And I think it's a combination of shame that you are admitting that you're overweight and you're unhappy with that. I know that a challenge for other people, not so much for me, but in a small way, is that there are definitely people out there who are going to think that you're taking the easy way out having weight loss surgery. And I didn't experience that mentality too much, only like very slight hints of it with people. But I think the thing to remember is that it's a medical problem and this is a medical answer. And the other reality to remember is that weight loss surgery patients still have to diet and exercise. This is just a tool, and I think if you can manage to frame it to people who you're telling in that way and really emphasize the change in diet and the change in lifestyle that's going to accompany this, it can kind of mitigate that kind of attitude a little bit. It's not perfect, and I think not pretending it's going to be perfect, not thinking it's going to be perfect yourself, and not expressing to others that it's going to be perfect, being really realistic with yourself and with others can help. And I think having those honest conversations with people, maybe people can learn something from you, and I hope that after I've had surgery, people might learn something from me. It's been a real topic of interest for me, I think, about how we feel compelled to tell people, and also who we should tell, who has a right to know. If we don't want to tell people, should we? There's a lot to think about there. I think as a society we do feel the need to tell people what we're doing with our lives, and my workmates, for example, they didn't need to know. They didn't need to know at all. And I told them only because I knew that they would notice. And also that my absence for 3 weeks would be weird, basically. I think telling people who are both overweight and who aren't overweight about our intentions to have weight loss surgery and then our successes having weight loss surgery is important because it can help to reduce stigma. I think if it's an issue that we don't ever talk about and that we do really closet, we're kind of perpetuating the idea that we should be ashamed of ourselves for being overweight, and that we should be ashamed of ourselves for taking the medical option out of obesity. Maybe there are other people out there who'll see me do it and see me be so open about it and see me be so relaxed about telling people about it, and think for themselves that maybe that is an option, maybe that's a road that I can go down to help fix this problem that I've got. I want other people to see it like I see it, in that it doesn't need to be a big deal. It feels like a big deal sometimes, but it doesn't need to, I think. My own personal philosophy is that it's vitally important that we put ourselves first. We are ultimately our own best friend. We are ultimately the only person that's going to be with us every second of every day. And if we don't prioritize our own health, if we don't prioritize our own mental well-being, if we don't prioritize the things that we want in life, how can we really be there for anybody else? So if other people are going to be negative, they just don't need to know. You just don't need to have a conversation with anyone about anything if it's not going to serve you or them. Some people, maybe their mind needs to be changed, and maybe you can be the person that changes that mind, but maybe you're not going to be, and maybe it's not your job to change their mind. So those are my thoughts about telling people that you're going to have weight loss surgery. It is tricky. It was tricky for me. Maybe it won't be tricky for you. Maybe some people have no shame. And it might sound silly, but you needn't be ashamed of being ashamed. I know that that's not the motivation for everybody for keeping it a secret. And on that, there are certainly people who keep their weight loss surgery completely secret, and that's fine. But telling people can be helpful for yourself, and telling people can be helpful for other people. They can learn something from you. So yeah, that's a little bit philosophical, I suppose, a little bit deep just for a second there, but I hope maybe that's helpful. It's nice for me to just talk it out, even if it is to a camera. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll be back with another video probably before my next appointment. My next appointment's not until the 20th of December, so I should be back to make another video before then. But if not, I'll speak to you then. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and again, thanks in advance for any comments. If you want to further the discussion down in the comments, that's great. So on that note, thank you. See ya.